And if I just had, and I would do anything just to have this. Have you ever looked at somebody and said, man, what I would do, what I would give just to trade places with that person? If I could just trade places with them, man, I would be happy. And man, if I could just be them, the family they have, the money they have, the job they have, the house they live in, the car they drive, whatever. And man, we're jealous and we look at somebody else and we say, man, if I just had that, then I would be happy. And we believe that the answer to our dissatisfaction with life, it lies somewhere in obtaining something that we do not have, or it's obtaining more of something that we already have. I just need more money. If I just had a raise. It was said that Rockefeller, the wealthy man, he obtained money and he accumulated money and accumulated wealth. And they said, Mr. Rockefeller, when will you be satisfied? When will you be done? When will you say this is enough money? And he said, I just need one more dollar. Just need one more dollar. And I'll tell you what, that is exactly the American philosophy that we have. We just need just a little bit more. If I just had more, the American dream is just to have more. We want the next generation that comes after us, we feel like they need to have more than what we have. If they're going to be happier than we have been, if they're going to be more fulfilled, if they're going to be more content, then we need to provide them with more stuff than what we had. Because we equate stuff with happiness. We equate stuff with satisfaction. If we just have more, then we'll be happy. And so we got to pass along to the next generation more things and more stuff so they can be more happy. But Solomon is the poster boy for somebody who had it all, who had everything, and yet he is the most miserable man on the planet. The book of Ecclesiastes pokes a hole in the theory that if you have more stuff, if you have more things, then you'll be more happy and you'll be more satisfied. Listen, church, I'm here to tell you this morning, it's simply not true. You're lying to yourself. You're kidding yourself. You're joking yourself. It is simply not true. In fact, if you look at verse number 25 of chapter number 2, he starts concluding these things, and he said, for who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? You know what he said? Who has more than me? Nobody. Solomon is the wealthiest man on the planet. He's got more than anybody else. He's got more of it. And we're about to look at these things. And he said, listen, I've got everything. I have everything anybody could ever want. If I wanted it, I got it. Nothing hindered me. Nothing restrained me. And he says, I hate life. Look at verse number 17, chapter number 2. He said, therefore I hated life. How about that? Everything in the world, and he hates life. I'm here to tell you, friends, stuff does not equal happiness. Do you remember that rich young ruler that came to Jesus? You remember him? He was rich, he was young, and he was a ruler. Sounds like he had it going on pretty good. What do y'all think? Rich, young ruler. He came to Jesus. Jesus said, pretty much in telling him this, he was saying, your problem is that your faith, your security is in the things that you have. And so if you want to be saved, you got to repent of all these things. You have to go sell everything you have, give it to the poor, take up your cross, follow me, you'll have eternal life. The boy wouldn't do it, right? Here's what it says. If you read that text, here's how it ends. It says, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. That's what it says. Now listen to that. He went away sorrowful because he had great possessions. How can you be sorrowful when you have all these great possessions? Because there is something inside of you that only the Lord Jesus Christ can fill. You can have everything in all the world that you could ever want, but if you don't have Jesus, friend, then you are going to be of all men most miserable. Jesus is what makes life make sense. And when you cut God out and all you look at is what is under the sun, and you don't look at what is over the sun and what is beyond the sun, then you will be a miserable, miserable man. And that is Solomon's testimony. And so when we get to verse number 12 of chapter number 1, we are getting a personal testimony of Solomon. Look what he says, verse 12. He said, I, the preacher, was king over Jerusalem. I gave my heart to seek and to search out wisdom concerning things that are done under heaven. So he's giving his personal personal testimony right here. And what we find is that he tries everything that a man can try. That he withholds himself from absolutely nothing. But he finds out that nothing that he tries can fix the brokenness that is in his life. Look at verse number 15. He said, that which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. You know what he said? He said, I've tried everything. I've done it all. He said, and the things that are crooked in my life, those things that I've gained, they cannot straighten out anything in my life. Things are still the same way. He said the things that are wanting, the things that I feel a lack in my soul, I feel a void, an emptiness on the inside of me. I've tried it all and I can't even count it all up, the void. I can't even measure the void that is on the inside of me. And I'm going to tell you what, you look up here at this young preacher real close. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you just graduated high school, or if you're a young person starting a career, or if you're an old man who's looking at retirement. I don't care where you are in this thing. You better know this right here, that everything that you could amass to yourself, all your accomplishments, all your money, it will never, ever, ever, ever fill a void that's inside of your life. Part of you only Jesus can fill. There's things that are crooked about you that only Jesus can straighten out. There's things that are lacking inside of you that only Jesus can make up the difference. Only Jesus can make things right in your life. He said they only brought more grief. Look at verse 18. For much wisdom is much grief. He that increaseth knowledge increaseth what? Sorrow. He said, I'm the smartest man alive and I'm the most miserable man alive. Somebody said ignorance is bliss, right? If ignorance is bliss, then I'm a happy, happy, happy man. He said, with more sorrow, I just know more. It makes me more grief in my life. Think about that. God gave him that wisdom. He said, the blessings that God has given me, he said, man, it's just adding grief to my life. I'm going to tell you something. If God's blessed you with some things, and it causes grief and heartache and trouble in your life, look up here. You're not doing something right. You're not doing something right. Because the blessings of God, they're good things. They make your life good. The Proverbs say they add no sorrow to it. There's no sorrow that comes with the blessings of God. But I tell you, mankind has a way of taking the things that God gives and perverting them and using them in such a way that actually brings sorrow to our life. When we begin to worship what God has given us instead of worshiping the one who gave it to us, your life will be miserable. You listening to me? If you worship the creation more than the Creator, your life is miserable. When you take good things that God has given to you and you turn them into ultimate things and you set them up as idols and you start worshiping them, listen, don't be surprised when you have no satisfaction, no contentment in your life, because contentment and satisfaction only comes from one place, and it comes from Jesus Christ. That's it. Solomon tries everything. In fact, that's what chapter 2 is about. I want you to look at chapter number 2, and I want you to notice all the things that Solomon tries to find satisfaction. In fact, the title of my message this morning, I'm just going to call it this: Dead End Streets. Dead End Streets. Or dead end roads, because that's exactly what Solomon does. He goes down this road, grief, sorrow, vanity. Then he'll go down this road, vanity. This road, vanity. This road. He tries every single avenue he possibly can, trying to find satisfaction in his life, and he finds out that every road that promises, say, hey, this is great. If you just go down this road right here, you'll find what you're looking for. But he found that every single road he went down just brought him to a dead end. They were all dead end roads. In fact, I'm going to organize it under 3 main headings, but let's just comb through these verses. And I highlighted a few words in my Bible here. I want to show you some words that, these are some streets that he went down, some avenues that he went down. Look at verse number 2. Or look at verse number 1 first of all. He said, I said in my heart, he's still giving us his testimony. I said in my heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. You see that? Prove thee with mirth. Now, the word prove just simply means test. You know what he said? He said, I'm testing it all out. I tried this, and I tried this, and I tried that, and then I tried this, and then I tried that. Mirth, that word mirth, it just simply means glee, exceeding gladness, pleasure, rejoicing. He's trying to find something that will make him happy. He's trying it all out. Look at what he tries. And I'm going to go back through all these, but let's read them real quick. Verse number 2, laughter. Verse number 3, wine. Verse number 4, great works, houses, vineyards. Verse 5, gardens, orchards, trees. Verse 6, pools of water. Verse 7, servants, maidens, possessions, cattle. Verse 8, silver, gold, treasure, singers, instruments. Verse 10, whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. You see that this morning, church? You see all the... How many of y'all still with me? Say amen. Everybody okay? You see all the avenues that he went down? He said, I went down this road. Nope. I went down that road. Nope. I went down this road. Nope. Couldn't find it here. Couldn't find it there. Couldn't find it there. I want you to tell you what. I'm going to tell you what Solomon found. He found a bunch of dead-end roads. Is what he found. First of all, we're going to organize all these things that I just read, organize it under 3 headings. First of all, I want to tell you this. Number 1, pleasure is a dead-end street. Pleasure is a dead-end street. You know what Solomon turns to? He turns to what we call hedonism. Do you know what hedonism is? Hedonism is a devotion to pleasure as a way of life. It's the motto that really our society lives by, and it says right here, if it feels good, then do it. Isn't that the only standard? Isn't that the only measuring stick our society has for whether they do something or not, whether they partake in it or not, whether it's good or bad, right or wrong? The only measuring stick they have is, if it feels good, then I'm going to do it. But how many of you know there's some things that they may feel good momentarily, but it'll wreck, it'll ruin your life, it'll leave you more empty than you ever have been. And Solomon found that out. He's in the house of hedonism, and he finds out that in the house of hedonism there are many rooms. And Solomon lives in every single one of them, trying to find satisfaction for his life. First of all, he turns to laughter. Look what it says in verse number 2. He said, I said of laughter, it is mad. And of mirth, what doeth it? He said, I look at laughter and comedy, trying to find just somebody make me laugh. I thank God, I believe a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, don't you? And if you've been around me any length of time at all, you know I like to laugh. I like to have a good time. I don't want to be the stick in the mud. Amen. I like to laugh. I like to laugh at people. Amen. That's the greatest thing. I sit in there. I've been able to do that last couple of week or so. I've sat in some airports, and you get to sit in airports and just look at a bunch of weird people and laugh at them. I like to laugh. And they're probably looking at me too. Probably looking at me too. But there's nothing wrong with laughter. In fact, let me just kind of get to the end of this thing and let you know that some of these things, some of them are, but not everything that we're going to talk about right here are necessarily bad things. There's nothing wrong with laughing. There's nothing wrong with laughter. But when you look to these things as something that tries to bring you the ultimate satisfaction in your life, they turn into bad things in your life. And Solomon tried laughter. The comedy club. And I want to tell you what laughter does? It only provides a temporary distraction from the realities of life. And so there's a lot of people, they love to laugh. They love to have a good time. But all they're doing is just trying to cover up things in their life. Do we really need to go and remember the comedians in Hollywood that have committed suicide? The entertainers, Marilyn Monroe, Robin Williams, all these names, people that we know, they entertain people, they make them laugh, and they're miserable on the inside. And the people that go and fill up the comedy clubs and put in the movies and comment, they just want to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh just to cover up the miserableness on the inside. There's a man in my dad's church, a good man, probably one of the most godly men I know, memorized more Bible than anybody I know. Man, it prays hours and hours a day. I'm serious, good, godly man. But before he got saved, when my dad went to Virginia, and this man wasn't saved just yet. And his name's Jimmy. And Jimmy wasn't saved just yet. And Jimmy he was on drugs and alcohol and all kind of things. His life was just a mess. And every time my dad would talk to him about the Lord, he'd just laugh. He just laughed. That's all he could do. He just laughed. He laughed it all. My dad looked at Jimmy one day and said, "Jimmy, you're going to laugh your way into hell." Sobered him up. Jimmy got saved. Now, Jimmy's one of the funnest guys to be around, but I'll tell you what, you get around Jimmy, he ain't going to talk to you about the movies and Hollywood and what's funny and things. Jimmy's going to talk to you about Jesus. He's happy, but he's happy about different things. And I'm going to tell you what, some of you, when the preacher preaches, and I've seen people, man, I get up and I'll preach on hell and preach on judgment, preach about getting your life right, and man, there's folks giggling and laughing and all. You think it's just one big joke. You listen to me? God's going to have the last laugh one day. That's what the Bible says. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. He shall have them in derision. I'm going to tell you what, friends. God, listen, this thing is not a joking matter. When it comes to your life and it comes to your soul, it's not a joke. It is serious. Solomon said, I just wanted to laugh. It made me forget about the fact that I had left God and cut God out of my life. So I'm just going to laugh about it. It's no laughing matter, cutting God out of your life. And then he said, turned to alcohol. He left the comedy club and went to the bar. Verse number 4. He said, I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine. Wine. Alcohol. Solomon gave himself to a substance that takes you away from reality. By the way, that's the draw of alcohol. Did you know that? It cuts your head off of your body. It doesn't remove your problems, but just for a moment, just for a minute, it takes you out of all the realities of life where you don't have to deal with the truths of life and how you're away from God and need to get right with God, need to get born again. You can forget all your troubles and all your miseries and just drown yourself in alcohol. But when you wake up, it's worse than it was before. And if you watch them Super Bowl ads, I mean, it looks wonderful. It looks amazing. They're having fun. Have all the women. They're having all the fun. They're having all the pleasure. It's almost like you can't have fun unless you have a beer in your hand. But I'm here to tell you, friend, that's not what the Bible says about alcohol. You could go to the book of Proverbs, chapter number 23, verses 29 through 35. I don't have time to do that this morning. But you can find Solomon in his sober days. He knew the truth about alcohol. So it'll tear your life up. But people just pleasure, just having fun. They're seeking fulfillment in pleasure. I'm here to tell you, friend, you can go to all the parties you want. You can laugh it up all you want. You can go after everything that you think is going to make you happy. It's going to satisfy this flesh. I'm going to tell you what, look up here, this preacher. It's a dead end road. You will not find what will fill your life in looking for pleasure. People live for the weekend. They live for the next party. They live to live it up again. I'm going to tell you what, friend. Listen, it's a dead end road. Pleasure is a dead end road. Number 2, projects are a dead end road. So Solomon couldn't find satisfaction in those things, so he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start some building projects. I'm going to try to do everything I can, be constructive and build and create things. And verse number 4, he said, I made me great works. I built me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards. I planted trees in them of all kind of fruits. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I mean, this is pretty amazing right here. He had architecture. Verse number 4, he's building great works. Agriculture, verse number 5, gardens, orchards, trees, vineyards, and then engineering in verse number 6. He actually invented ways in all of his wisdom and his architectural engineering. He invented ways of an irrigation system that, I mean, this is thousands and thousands of years ago. He was able to invent an irrigation system that would water all of his plants and his gardens and his orchards and his forests. And he did all those things. He spent 7 years building the temple. He spent 13 years building his own house. He built high places and shrines to all of the gods of all of his 700 wives that he had. But yet he was never satisfied with what he built. He was never satisfied with what he had. There always had to be more. It always had to be something bigger. It always had to be something better. And I'm going to tell you what, there's people in this room, no doubt about it, and people in this world, in this society, they live just like that. Never satisfied. Build a house here, you got to have one on the beach. You build a house, you got to add on. You got to be something bigger. Got to be something bigger. Got to be something greater. It's like that man that Jesus talked about that his small barns, he had to tear them down. He had to build bigger barns. It's always something, always something. I'm here to tell you something, friend. Those things will never satisfy your life. You can stay just as busy and busy and busy and doing and going and going and going and building and creating and adding on and growing your business and adding on and adding on and adding on. By the way, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if you look at those things as what will bring you happiness and what will bring you satisfaction, you are going to find out that you're going to run slap into a dead-end road. Pleasure, dead-end road. All the projects in the world, it's a dead-end road. And let me give you this last one and I'm done. Possessions are a dead-end road. Look at all the things that he had. Verse 7. I got me servants and maidens. I'm going to tell you something. Solomon's wealth was beyond compared. Did you know that? I want you to, on your own time, go back to 1 Kings chapter 10. Read all about it. His wealth was beyond compare. How many have ever seen that show that used to come on called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? You ever watch that? I don't know if I've ever seen that show. That was a long time ago. Or maybe it comes on. I don't know. I hadn't seen it in a long time. But I have seen shows similar like unto that, where they take you in and you see these big houses and man, just see. Can you imagine? I mean, they got a house with a bowling alley in it. Can you imagine having a bowling alley in your house? How many of you have ever been to the Biltmore house? Me and Miss Heather went to the Biltmore a year or two ago. Thanks to Miss Julie right there. Sponsored by Julie Welch. Hey, man. I said something about wanting to go to the Biltmore. I thought, man, that place is too expensive. I'm not going to go. And Miss Julie said, I'll pay for tickets. Not only that, I'll watch the kids and let you go. Isn't that a blessing right there? That's why Miss Julie, she's my favorite church member here. All right. You're going to heaven first. Oh, wait, I don't know if they're going to heaven first, but you're going to be above everybody else in heaven. I grant that to you right there. Y'all know I'm joking, right? That Biltmore, man, had a bowling alley in the bottom of it. Isn't that cool? Place for servants and maids and all this. I mean, that house is way ahead of its time is what I'm trying to say. Way ahead of its time with all the amenities and all the fancy things that it had and the levels and rooms and artifacts and just all through that house. Solomon would blow the Biltmore house out of the water. People bragged about what he had built and all the wealth that he had amassed and the wisdom that he had. All around the world, people knew about it. And when they come and visited, they said, it's better than what they had said. It's better than what I'd heard. That's how great Solomon. You ever sat around and thought about what it'd be like to be rich? Am I the only one that did that? Sit in my little double-wide trailers growing up, and then now I'm in a double-wide trailer. I'm not really moving up very well, but it's okay. You ever sit around when you're a kid or last week and think about, man, what would it like to be rich? Have money. Solomon had it all. He had maids and servants. Maids and servants. That's people who did everything for him. How many ladies would like to have somebody do all your laundry, all your dishes, all your cooking? Wouldn't that be a blessing right there? Can I get a witness on that? Pick out your clothes, iron your clothes. These rich people, they don't even go shop for their own clothes. They hire somebody to go shop for them. What do? I don't even know what they do. They sit around and pick their nose, I guess. I don't know what. What else is there to do? Somebody's cooking for you, cleaning for you, watching for you, shopping for you, ironing for you. They dress you, they fix your hair, they do your makeup. Can you imagine having all that? Can you imagine having a butler? I can just ding, 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 ring your bell. Here they come running in. You ever watch Richie Rich when you were a kid? You used to watch that. Think, oh man, that would be awesome. He had servants. He had all the best food. He talks about his cattle in verse number 7. Of course, cattle not only is for food, but it was just another sign of wealth. How much ever cattle you had is how wealthy you are. He had the best choice of meats anytime, that he wanted. Money, look at verse 8. Silver and gold. He gathered also silver and gold and peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. He had all the money in all the world. You ought to go back to 1 Kings chapter 10 on your own time and read about his income. He had money coming in from everywhere. He taxed the people pretty good. There's money. When people come and visit him, they brought money. He had ships that were going to distant lands just to mine him gold and bring it back to him. He had revenue streams all over the place. Silver and gold. Had all the money. Money was no object to Solomon, no issue. He had more than he knew what to do with it. How about this? He had all the entertainment that he could ever want. Now, Solomon lived in a day. Solomon didn't have a TV. Solomon didn't have a satellite dish. Solomon didn't have an iPod. He didn't have an iPhone. He didn't have a tablet. He didn't have all these things that we have entertainment on demand. Is that right? Anytime. Some of you might be enjoying some of those entertainment in here while I'm preaching this morning. On demand. Man, the preacher's boring this morning. Turn it on. Entertainment on demand at your fingertips. Now, Solomon didn't have these gadgets that we have, but Solomon had entertainment on demand. Anytime he wanted. You know what he had? He said, I got me, verse 8, men singers and women singers. And the delight, think about whatever your favorite group is, he said, yeah, I'll take them. I'll buy them. Yeah, that choir, yeah, I'll take them all. Bring them to the house. That way, whenever he wanted, he didn't have a gadget to press play on, but all he had to say was just snap his fingers and boom, the choir sang. The pickers picked. That's what it says. And that musical instruments and that of all sorts. And if you study that out in the Hebrews, it means banjos and mandolins and guitars and dobros. Bluegrass. He had all kind of sorts. Anything you want. He didn't have a button that said play, but anytime he wanted something to play, it played. He wanted a comedian, there they are. Want a little jester, there they are. Want some jokes, want a little play, want a skit, want a drama, whatever he wanted. He didn't have a TV, but he had plenty of entertainment anytime that he wanted it. Servants, food, money, entertainment. And verse 10 just sums it all up when he said, whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was the portion of all my labor. You know what he said? He said, anything I wanted. Anything and everything. Now, every one of us in here, because we're just a bunch of poor folk out in the country, every one of us in here, you have things that you want, but you can't have them because you don't have enough money to get them. Isn't that right? Y'all want to see the list? I got a list. A lot of stuff I'd love to have. Man, if I had all the money in the world, I guarantee you I'd be living in a different house. I'd be driving a different car. I'd be wearing different clothes and all that kind. There's things that I want. I just don't have the money for it. Solomon didn't have that problem. Anything and everything that he wanted. He kept not himself back from anything. And at the end of all these streets, he went down the street of pleasure. He went down the street of projects. He went down the street of possessions. And every road that he went down, every street that he went down, he found the same thing. Dead end. Dead end. Dead end. Vanity. 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 More emptiness. More brokenness. He'd done it all. He'd seen it all. And he still felt broken. He felt crooked. He still felt empty. He felt wanting. That's what, back in chapter number 1, verse 14 and 15. He said, I've seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. I'm going to read verse 15 again. That which is crooked cannot be made straight. He said, all these roads I've been down, they cannot straighten out one thing inside of me. That which is wanting or lacking cannot be numbered. I can't fill all It doesn't feel. It feels like all these things that I pour into my life, I feel like I'm pouring it into a cup that's got a hole on the bottom of it. It's just it never fills me up. It never satisfies. He'd seen it all. He'd done it all. And he still felt empty and broken. Now I'm going to end this up right here. I'm going to conclude this message. I want to look at a verse in Philippians to end this up. So go to Philippians chapter 4. And I want to read a verse there before we're done, a verse or two. And I want to say this. Listen to me real close while you're finding Philippians. The philosophy of this world is this. Here's what this world is preaching to us today. They're preaching that it's dangerous to repress any desires that you have. And what I mean by that is this. They say, look, find out who you are on the inside. Find out what you want. And then don't let anybody stop you. I don't care what your parents say. I don't care what the church says. Doesn't matter what the Bible says, what God says, what society says, what history says, what tradition says. All that matters, the most important thing about you is what you want, and don't let anything stop you. It's in every Disney movie. It's in every schoolhouse. That's the philosophy that's being pumped into our kids, being pumped into our life. Be who you want to be. Do what you want to do. Don't let anybody stop you. Because if you don't, you're going to live with regret. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be even suicidal if you don't let yourself do whatever it is that you feel like you want to do. But can I tell you that the book of Ecclesiastes actually says the exact opposite? The book of Ecclesiastes teaches us that if all you do is what you want to do, then you'll be depressed. Then you'll be disappointed with life. If all you do is whatever your flesh wants to do, and you think that following these things will make you happy in your life, you will end up a depressed, miserable man or woman. Again, I'll say it again. If having all these stuff, being popular and having all the pleasures and being able to do all the projects and having all the possessions, if that made you happy, then Hollywood would be the happiest place on the planet. They can't stay married. They can't stay happy. They can't stay satisfied. Nothing ever is enough for them. They have to take those actors, we don't even know all the handfuls of pills they take every single day just to keep themselves sane. Because they found out the more money they have, the more grief that comes along with it. The more popularity they have, the more grief that comes along with it. And I'm telling you what, friend, they have lived their lives, or some of them, it just happened. They followed a career path and it just was dumped out all on them. But if you look to those things to bring you satisfaction, you will be a miserable person. They have all these things and they find out there's still something missing. By the way, there's nothing wrong with a lot of these things. There's nothing wrong with them. Is there anything wrong with laughing? No. Is there anything wrong with having money? No. In fact, I encourage it. I'd like to try it out sometime. Amen. No, I'm just kidding. God's been good to me. But I tell you, there's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with having a good time. Is there anything wrong with having all these things that Solomon? No, but the point is this: if that's what you look to for your satisfaction, you will be. If you cut God out and you say, I'm going to find my fulfillment in life from these things, God, I don't need you anymore, then you have made a huge mistake. That's a dead-end road. That's a dead-end street. The problem is when we look to them for something only God can give. When we worship the blessings rather than worshiping the blesser, we've made a big mistake. We've made a big mistake. Miss April, you can come around. I want to read Philippians chapter 4 to you, and then I'm done. The Philippians, and probably every time when we look in the book of Ecclesiastes, we'll probably end up in Philippians as we end. Because Ecclesiastes is the point of view under the sun. Philippians gives us the real point of view, the right point of view. The book of Philippians is the antidote to the Ecclesiastes life. And if all you live for is what's in this world and what's under the sun, you're going to be a miserable person even if you can get all of it. Even if you can amass all of it. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? Ecclesiastes is about a man who had everything and was miserable. Philippians was written by a man who had nothing. He's literally in a jail cell. He's broke. He don't have anything. But yet he's the happiest man in the world. Now you explain that. Can anybody explain that? I can. One word. You ready? It's a name. It's called Jesus. That's it. Paul didn't have servants. Paul didn't have good food. Paul didn't have entertainment. Paul didn't have gold. He didn't have silver. He didn't have all these things. But I'll tell you what Paul had. Paul had Jesus. Isn't that right? And look what he said. Look at verse number 10. Verse 11. He said, not that I speak in respect of want. Look here. For I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be what? Therewith to be. Say that word. Say it one more time real loud. Ready? Content. Content. That's a good word. Solomon had gold. He had silver. He had servants. Had cattle. Had gardens. Inventions. Buildings. Laughter. Comedy. Alcohol. Women. By the way, I didn't talk about the women. He had 700 wives. 700 wives. That means 700 mother-in-laws somewhere. Then he had 300 concubines. Concubine is just simply for one, they exist for one purpose, and that's for pleasure. That was it. I'm not trying to be vulgar, but I'm just giving you the honest truth. 300 of them. He had everything anybody could ever want. But he didn't have one thing. He didn't have contentment. Paul's sitting in a jail cell, and he said, you know what I've learned, guys? Whatever state I am, if it's good, if it's bad, if it's up, if it's down, he said, I'm just content. I'm sitting in this jail cell, man. The nasty fluids of the city are under my feet and probably ankle deep, sitting in that stuff under the jail cell. And he said, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. How about that? He said, I'm just content. I'm just happy. I can't explain it. I don't know why. I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's something you only get through Jesus. Verse 12, he said, I know both how to be abased. That means be on the bottom. And I know how to abound. That means be on the top. He said, everywhere and in all things I'm instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and suffer need. Verse 13, probably one of the most taken out of context verses in the whole Bible. He said, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Now look, that verse does not mean you can dunk a basketball. You hear me? Look at me. I am not dunking a basketball anytime soon. Not on a regulation goal. Now, give me one of them little tykes things that come down. I might go LeBron James on you there for a second. But just a 10-foot or whatever it is, I'm not dunking a basketball. I don't care how many times. I mean, I could tattoo this verse on my forehead. Still not going to dunk a basketball. Say, oh man, that basketball player, he's so godly. He put, I can do all things on his sneakers or whatever. Well, that's great, but he took it out of context. It's not what that means. Doesn't mean God's going to help you dunk a basketball or hit a home run. Don't mean that you could jump off a building and fly. Doesn't mean that. Don't mean you can do all things. What is he talking about? You can do all things. He's talking about no matter what situation I find myself in, if things are good, if things are bad, if there's money in the bank, if there's no money in the bank, if I'm healthy, if I got cancer, if everybody likes me, everybody hates me. He said it does not matter where I find myself, I can do it all I can do all things. He said, I can do cancer. I can do poverty. I can do bankruptcy. I can do nobody liking me. I can do prison. I can do persecution. I can do shipwreck. I can do it all through Jesus Christ. Through Jesus Christ. He said, I can do it. I can do it. And be content. Can you? Can you? Can you lose it all and still have everything? You can through Christ. You can through Christ. I read this. Well, actually, I heard this song last week. It seemed like I'd heard it before. I think it's an old song. I found the words. George Beverly Shea recorded it in the 70s. I don't know how old the song is or where it came from. It might be a country song. I don't know. If it is, I apologize. I'm sorry. But somebody sang it at a meeting I was at, so you can be mad with them if you want to. Here's what it says. It's called Acres of Diamonds. You ever heard that song, Acres of Diamonds? Here's the words. You ready? It said, acres of diamonds, mountains of gold, rivers of silver, and jewels untold. All these together wouldn't buy you and me peace when we're sleeping or a conscience that's free. If you had all the money in the world, you couldn't buy peace. You couldn't buy a clean conscience. There's only one verse in the chorus. That's all I could find. The chorus goes something like this. A heart that's contented, a satisfied mind. These are the treasures that money can't buy. But if you have Jesus, there's more wealth in your soul than acres of diamonds or mountains of gold. Amen. I got Jesus. Ain't nothing wrong with having stuff. No, I'm not. That's not. If that's what you walk away from with this message, you missed it. The point is, if that's what you're looking, if you cut God out of your life, you say, God, I don't need you. I got this and this and this. You're going to find a bunch of dead-end roads. I'll tell you what the best life is. The best life is walking hand in hand with Jesus. Say, Lord, you put into my life whatever you want. You take out of my life whatever you want. As long as I got you. I got the one that walking beside me. He said, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. He said, I'll go with you all the way, even until the end of the world. As long as I got you, Jesus, that's all I need. You put in my life whatever you want. You take out of my life whatever you want. As long as I'm walking with you, that's more than money could ever, 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 ever buy. It's good to be saved, isn't it? It's good to have Jesus. It's good to know Jesus. Let's stand together. Maybe you've been